All right, Logan, here we go. You are working on parallel and perpendicular lines. And you started with y equals mx plus b. And there we go. And you know that m is the slope, right? And b is the y-intercept. Well, for this project, or for this video, we're going to start with just looking at slope. And then we're going to use the y-intercept later when we have equations that we have to write in parallel or perpendicular form, right? So let's talk about parallel lines. Parallel lines they have the same slope. And that sort of makes sense because if a line's, heading up this way, another line heading up this way that's parallel, ooh, that was horrible, um, they would have the same slope. Say this line was, y equals 2x plus 3. Then this line over here would be, y equals 2x plus 5 because it crosses, the axis a little bit higher, right? So if this is the y-axis, then this crosses at 3, and this is 2 spaces higher up there, and there you go. So let me undo that. Now we're going to talk about perpendicular. Perpendicular lines, let's use another color. Perpendicular lines have slopes are negative reciprocals of each other. So the negative piece, I know you understand, right? Negative we get. But negative reciprocal, okay, well, what's the reciprocal? If I have an equation that says y equals 3, let's call it negative 3x minus 1. I want to know what the negative reciprocal of negative 3 is. Right? That's my job. My job is to find the negative reciprocal. So we look at negative 3, and so the negative part we get, it's going to be positive, right? But the reciprocal is kind of goofy because we're not looking at a fraction, but every whole number or every integer can be written as a fraction, right? So this negative 3 is basically negative 3 over 1. So its reciprocal would be negative 1/3, but we're talking about the negative reciprocal. So it's going to be positive 1/3. That, my friend, is the negative reciprocal. Okay, so now that we've got that part, I'm going to clear the whole screen. Let's try something. Let's graph two equations. Y equals negative 2x plus 4. And we'll graph one that's parallel. Y equals negative 2x plus 1. All right, so I will set up my axes. And for right now, we'll just do this. Now we're going to start looking at the y-intercept because we need to know where to graph it. So we count up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make a dot. Slope is -2, so we go down 2 and over 1 and make a dot. So I'm just going to create a line that cuts through that because that's the way to cheat. There we go. Now we've graphed this. And if we wanted to look again, we'd go down 2 and over 1, and it's pretty close to what we wanted. Now we're going to graph this guy. But it crosses at +1. And we go down 2 and over 1. And kind of over just a little bit. There we go. Now we're going to graph that line. Find the line, cut right through it. There we go. It's pretty close to parallel. I had to use rough drawing, There we go, and those are parallel. So let's go back. And we'll use that same original equation, but let's graph one that's actually perpendicular. So what is the negative reciprocal of, and we'll use the same y-intercept. What's the negative reciprocal of 2? Well, we take our -2. So -2 would be -2 over 1. Its reciprocal would be 1/2. And it wouldn't be negative anymore because we're taking the opposite of it. So this would be 1/2 x plus 1. So we still cross the y-axis at +1 because that's still our y-intercept. So let's look at this slope. For every 1 that we go up, we go over 2. So that is just about there. And then we're going to create a line. Oh, that's not good. There we go. And that one didn't look very good either. That's more like it. So sorry, I'm not very close in my drawings there. But that's the idea. There we go. There it is. So we've graphed our parallel and our perpendicular. And I'm going to do one last thing to help you out. The last thing that they'll probably ask you on a quiz is to write the equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 3x plus 2 that passes through point -2, -4. All right. So the first thing we need to do, step 1, find the slope. Well, the slope is perpendicular. So we take this slope and we want to make it the negative reciprocal. So I want to make it negative and it's reciprocal, and there we are. All right, so we can start writing. Step 2, start to write it. Start to write the equation. Y equals, we have our new slope, x plus b. Now, step 3, input coordinate pair. And that just means input this for x, input this for y. So, go back. We'll say that negative 4 is equal to our negative 1/3. Ugh. Times negative 2, sorry about the fraction, plus b. I hope you'll forgive me for this fraction here. So negative 4 equals 1/3. Negative 1/3 times negative 2 is positive 2/3 plus b. And then we just subtract 2/3 from both sides. That goes away. And this is actually negative 4 and 2/3 equals b. I should use something like 3. But this final answer is y equals negative 1/3 x minus 4 and 2/3. You won't have anything nearly that hard. Or I hope it isn't. But that's it.